Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
And this week we are fortunate enough to be joined again by Ben Stanley. Ben, welcome back. And if you'd like to tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I was here for the Hamilton review. I am sort of a content creator, and I make a lot of reviews of movies and things like that, but my main thing is I create artwork based off of movie scripts. That's sort of how I got my following. But, I mean, you guys discovered me from when I reviewed 120 plus Christmas Carol adaptations. But basically, a company that does marketing for indie films reached out to me a few months ago, and long story short, they send me screeners to upcoming indie films under the condition that I make a review for it on my TikTok. So a lot of the movies that I'm reviewing are not movies that I would ordinarily choose to watch, and so the movie we're discussing today is one of them.
And I'm glad that you thought of us when it came to picking today's movie, because I think, you know, this is a relatively recent film to have come out, but I don't believe it's one that we probably would have placed a high priority watching or reviewing. I am now like Googling it because for whatever reason my brain cannot handle the combination of like over river, through woods, through river, over wood, like
To grandmother's house we go. Yeah. I also was getting it mixed up.
I can't get my brain to make it work.
Yeah, especially because it's across the river and into the trees, and the across the river part makes sense. I'm not really sure where the into the trees part comes from. I don't know if that has to do with the battlefields, but I don't know.
I think it's because there was
It's from a quote.
Oh, is it?
across the river and through the trees.
Into the trees.
Into the trees, yeah.
Okay.
Prepositions, yeah.
It's
You think you're all high and mighty because you read the fucking book, like.
it's from Stonewall Jackson.
Oh,
yes,
right.
The last words of Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah, he is buried in, I hope this is correct, but I believe he is buried in Lexington, Virginia, which I used to live in the city next to Lexington. So, like,
Well,
the
most
hospital,
of them's buried there.
well, yeah, right. Like, the hospital there was Stonewall Jackson Hospital, which, of course, got renamed in 2020 because, you know, everything did. And so I heard that name a lot living out there.
But yeah, as we all know... Sorry, what was that?
You know, continue, Jack.
As we all know, his second to last words were, "What the fuck, guys?"
Basically, yeah.
I'm curious what made Hemingway choose Stonewall Jackson's last words as like a title or a premise for a book.
He doesn't mention it in the book towards the last chapter. And I feel now is a good time as any to talk about my biggest issue with the movie is the ending. Because in the book, he dies of a heart attack. And it ties back to, well, you know, his heart troubles. And this one, he just fucking kills himself.
Yeah. That sort of didn't sit well with my wife and I either when we were watching it. Is like, we could sort of see the build-up coming, and we're like, please don't shoot yourself. Please don't. And then we're like, so, yeah. So, thematically, why do you think it works better that he died of a heart attack?
Well, it mentions his heart problems, and, it's just... Suicide is depressing.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
I think it's one of those, like, him dying of a heart attack in the duck boat, I think would have worked better because this movie, like, I don't have a better word for it, and I'm sorry for, like, sexualizing it, but this movie fucking edges you the entire time. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Like I texted DP when I was watching this. This is like the most sexually tense movie I've seen probably since 300.
so for me, like, when he's in that boat and it's like this super calm and serene spot, and it's like brightly lit, so much like sunlight, because most of this movie is very dark. It's very dark color saturated.
Yeah.
A lot of it takes place at night. So like the end of this movie taking place like early morning when there's a ton of sunlight in this, open, beautiful outdoor area. And you can kind of see like, and this is immediately post him having his like coming to terms kind of moment. Like him sitting in that boat, you can like see on his face like he's having a moment of peace. Like the him killing himself makes it like it goes from like peace and then like what the fuck guys versus like
Right.
if he was sitting in the boat it is like moment of peace and then like he just closes his eyes and never like opens them again, I'd be like that's like such a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Or an alternate ending where he just fired the shotgun to scare the geese off and he just laid down to take a nap in the boat.
Yeah. That also would have worked.
Tired of
Yeah.
this fucking
'cause-
honking.
Shut up! Scares all the geese.
Well, so I didn't. I'm really glad that I watched these kind of movies with my wife because she'll point out things that I didn't quite pick up on, and so I think the moment right before the suicide was poignant because he points his gun at the ducks and then he decides not to, and so she was like, because he doesn't want to take another life anymore, I think was the purpose of that scene, which then kind of makes the suicide a little ironic.
Yeah, I can see that and I can appreciate that take of it too, but it's
Like-
just like, but also it's like he only says he wants to go duck hunting 47 billion times leading up to this
Right.
moment. Like,
Well, the first 2 billion times I was suspecting that he he made that up and that he was there for some other alternate ulterior motive, that's the word, and that was just the lie that he told the woman in the boat.
him and Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
I also was of that mind frame, and like, not that far into the movie, he meets up with, this boatmaker woodworker guy who we later finds out was a member of the resistance. And they're having their conversation and Liev Schreiber picks up a wooden duck like in this dude's workshop. You're like, aha, that's the duck hunting. Like,
Oh, yeah.
but then like it goes back to this like day and a half courtship with the Contessa, and it's like I want to know more about the ducks actually. Like,
Right.
this seems more entertaining to me. Not that we did an episode not that long ago called The Fighting Sullivans, and it's this movie from World War II about a group of 5 brothers who all served on the same ship and they died. But in that movie, there's like this very stereotypical like 1940s interpretation or showing of like courtship, where it's literally like you go to a dance hall and you meet a girl and it's like, well, you're a mighty fine dame, I think you got thin wrists, and then like you kiss and then you're married the next day.
Right.
Gotta start popping out them kids.
I know, right? This movie was very interesting to me because I thought it captured what we see in like 1940s and 1950s films with the like 30-second love story, but like the courtship or the like the tension between the Contessa and Liev Schreiber, it takes up like 2/3 of this movie, However, the time frame of this movie is literally like 2 days. So, in reality, like, even though it's like all of this movie, it encompasses that kind of mindset or that like what we see in those 40s and 50s films where it's like, yeah, these people know each other for a day and they've fallen in love with each other. And I thought it was very interesting seeing that imposed on a modern day film. Even though it is about the 40s, seeing
Yeah.
that in a new film was different for me.
Yeah. So, Jack, having read the book, how much emphasis was put on the romance versus the other aspects?
Well, they fuck in the book, if that's what you're asking.
That was not what I was asking, but
That's very
I guess I
succinct,
meant how
Jax.
much of the
Thank you
story was
for getting to
focused
the
on it.
point.
It was blunt, yes, but yeah, it's a lot of them talking and whatnot. A lot of talking,
That
Well-
seems appropriate for Hemingway.
and that, yeah, is
I feel like this had like this film definitely shows that it is an adaptation of a book. Because
Right.
the only kind of like direct correlation I can think of for this film to any other kind of contemporary media is like this resembles like a Quentin Tarantino film quite a lot, where you have these very long dialogue driven scenes where it's like at times you start to wonder like, okay, when is the next part of this story going to happen?
Right.
And
my favorite part is when Quentin Tarantino played the Colonel. Ethan Hawke played his little assistant, and he said, "Josh, shut the fuck up." And there's blood and gore.
So I am a little bit ashamed to admit this, but I've actually never read any Ernest Hemingway books. So I don't know if this is like one of his better works or one of his lesser like I
know
genuinely don't know, and I don't know if this particular writing style is on par for what he does.
I'm
I
just
know
going to
it
go
was
on. Go
his
ahead.
last book, but no, go ahead. I was just going. All I know is that it was his last novel before
But
he died.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this isn't one of his best works, being as it's not exactly what comes to mind when one hears Ernest Hemingway. But then again, what do I know? I'm just an uncultured swine. So did you guys get that thing at the beginning of the feature where it was like Ernest Hemingway trivia?
Oh yeah.
Because you guys went to like the digital premiere.
Yeah,
and
we,
I just
we
got the
did we
screener.
did the link you sent us.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a movie theater where they did like they had trivia cards up to like kill time until the actual movie start time.
Oh, okay.
I did pretty well.
I did not. I don't know anything about Hemingway. I'm sorry, but I know that he's a writer.
My favorite part is when he was on vacation in like the Democratic Republic of the the Belgian Congo, because that's just something he did. Vacationed there at the place where the phrase "crimes against humanity" was coined. But anyway, suffers a car or is involved in a plane crash, is finally saved, involved in the plane that was saved and crashed as well. And then when he finally reached civilization again, he read a newspaper talking about Ernest Hemingway's death.
Guys, I'm okay. So having read the book, Jack, I very studiously looked up the Wikipedia for this book because I do a lot of research for this show.
Right.
And it said that a big part of that book was it's mentioned a few times in the movie where he says like, yeah, I've been to Italy before because I fought in the First World War. And in the Wikipedia description, it says that flashbacks to the First World War are like kind of a key component. Would you agree with that?
I barely noticed them, to be honest.
Like in the book, you barely noticed the flashback parts.
I barely noticed them.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
There's
he
only, like,
talks.
one brief one in the movie. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's like two, and they're not really well shot, in my opinion. But
I would. So the first flashback that we get, I like it scared me. Like it was very jarring. Just because they're Leaf Schreiber's talking to Josh Hutcherson, and he's like, I failed him. And then all of a sudden, you see like him in a river with all of his other troops and they're just getting annihilated, and like there's no buffer between that sentence and when that scene takes over. It's just like
Yeah.
I thought
And
it was very powerful because I think it's like you're basically getting like I think you're living the flashback as he is living it.
that's probably one way to look at it. Yeah. That's probably the only justification for it, because you're right. It's very abrupt, because the thing is, when they send me these screeners, these films don't have like ratings, or like content warnings or anything like that. And so I don't know if a film is going to be violent. I don't know if it's going to have anything like that. And so, so this one, you go, probably 2/3 of the movie, and it's mostly just dialogue, and then that comes out of nowhere. It's like, okay, and so yeah, it was a very. But I think you're right. It's like you're sort of living the flashback in real time with him.
I do wish there maybe was more flashbacks or maybe like space them out a little more because like I want to say for like the first 30 minutes like we can tell just by like his demeanor that like he's an old grizzled soldier who's experienced a lot and like he obviously has issues, but like I don't think you fully appreciate the depth of the issues he's working through until you're a solid way through the film.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty slow to reveal certain things, because like I said, for the a good chunk of the film I thought he was lying about the duck hunting, and I didn't think that the woman driving the boat was going to be of any kind of significance. Um like I really wasn't sure him returning to Italy after having fought against them. He fought against them, right?
I can't remember, for being honest.
It was my understanding that he fought with the resistance against
Oh,
them,
okay.
so complicated.
Yeah. And I will say that the part of the movie that I definitely enjoyed the most was the scenery and the setting in general, because coastal Italy is my favorite region in the world. I took a trip to Cinque Terre earlier this year, and I haven't been to Venice specifically, but uh, one thing I can say is that it's one of the few places I think that you can shoot on location, and you have to do very, very little set dressing to make it look like it was the 40s, because it's still just as old and ruinous
Just
looking.
as it was then.
Yeah. And
It's a
they,
lot of European cities.
yeah, and I do like, I think it was the opening scene, or one of the opening scenes, when they were like contemplating over like a church or a mural or something that got damaged or something, as a part of the war. And I saw a lot of that in Italy as well. Like in Monterosso, there's a pretty famous statue that has its arms and part of its head missing because it was bombed during World War II. So it was interesting to see those sort of things, and how the characters were sort of relating to them because they were directly involved in those sort of things. So to what I see as history was something that they were experiencing.
Hmm.
I think like going to that like the set dressing thing you said, there's like a really great quote from the Contessa where she's like, when we're 30 minutes into their all night long date, um, she's like, my name is 600 years old, my house is 600 years old, these paintings are 600 years old. It seems like that part of the world, a lot of things are kind of like frozen in time.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the
Absolutely.
case. Yeah,
The other part of that though is like I thought that was a great line, but I think one of the things that's a downfall to this film is like I don't have an issue with a dialogue forward film, but if you are going to spend the better part of an hour and a half bombarding your audience with like what is meant to be like very what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not artsy, but
Pretentious.
yeah, well, let's you're trying to do this dialogue that's very intelligent or is supposed to have a lot of meaning behind it or showcases intelligence in your characters. Like if you're just doing that nonstop, it takes away the overall value from all the things they say. So like that one scene where she says like, "My name is 600," like she's supposed. It's a scene where she's basically saying she's like, "Yeah, I feel stagnant because I've been born into this place or position where like nothing ever changes," and like that's something that I think is very worth exploring because she also mentioned she's like, I don't want to live in a place where I just drive my boat in circles. Like, I want to go to America where I can drive for miles and miles and miles and all that stuff. But it kind of gets muddied or lost in the grand scheme of it because it's like an hour and a half of them like, what is the meaning of life? Like,
Right.
it gets to be much.
Yeah. And that, I think, is so. I think a issue that I've seen a lot of people take in the reviews I've read is the very wide age gap between the two. Because she's 18 and he's 50. But I think that topic
Didn't
in
stop Bill
particular about,
Belichick.
huh?
Didn't stop Bill Belichick.
Right. I think that in particular, talking about like doing the same things over and over and what to do with your life. Obviously, you have a very, very different perspective of that if you're 18 versus if you're 50. And he has lived his life, and he sees the good and the bad of doing the same thing over and over. I guess he would have lived through both World War.
Yeah, because in this movie it makes a point of saying that like he served in both of them.
Yeah,
because he's like, I've been in the army for 30, like, because that was another, like, that's another really powerful scene. Is he's like, where's my prime? Like, I gave 30 years to the infantry and fought in 2 wars. And like that in and of itself should have been like a super powerful scene. But like I said, when you're doing an hour and a half of nonstop dialogue that's along those lines, it gets lost.
Yeah, Jack, about how long was the book?
Like 6 hours.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, I listened to the audiobook.
Right.
6.5.
Because, like, my understanding and of what little I've read of Hemingway, like, he's really good at describing sceneries and settings. So it was a lot of the book just like describing the coastal Italian settings.
There was some time dedicated to that, yeah, but the bulk of it was just talking.
Was it? Okay. Because part of me felt like, because as we already said, it's pretty clear that this is an adaptation of a book. Part of me wondered if maybe the fact that there was so much emphasis on the dialogue was because a lot of the book was based off the scenery. So if you already have that visually taken care of in the medium of film, then all that's left is this dialogue.
And a lot of the dialogue did make it onto the screen.
Okay.
There was like this idle conversation he had where there's a part where he just talks about the various ways Italian soldiers got out of duty. It basically teaches you how to injure yourself in such a way you won't be investigated. Like, put a sandbag over your leg, have a buddy shoot the leg. That way the sandbag eliminates the flash burns and you just get hit by the bullet.
Oof.
And it softens it too for added effect. Right. But you're supposed to, you and your buddy, fire off a couple of rounds into the nothingness to really sell the image, like, oh, the soldier got away. And then he mentions like the rich kids had paraffin injected into their knees because it fucks up their marching.
I guess that makes sense.
But no, they just have a guy talk about that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of tell don't show in this particular one. And a lot of it is, so this film was filmed in 2020 and it like was finished in 22 and it
So
only premiered.
It's taken a minute to get out then.
Yeah. So it premiered at Sundance in 22 and then it premiered in theaters in Canada, I think like in August. I don't think it got a theatrical release in the US, which is why all of us saw it through like these special screenings. So, but I guess what I'm saying is it was filmed during the pandemic, and that was helpful to them in some ways because the cities where everyone was in lockdowns, so they didn't have to worry about crowds. But I feel like there's more that they could have, like if there wasn't restrictions, especially because Italy was hit by COVID pretty hard pretty early. If there were fewer restrictions, they might have been able to film more visuals to go along with the dialogue. I think that might have made it a little more interesting. So I don't know if that's a consequence of COVID or what.
I was about to say, like, this is suddenly making so much more sense to me. But, like, something that I thought about watching this film was, didn't the streets of Venice seem like eerily empty?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, I know they're filming a movie and, like, they can kind of, set areas off aside. Like, they can. I know in filming they can kind of control how much movement is within their filming area, but like for a city, it looked desolate or empty almost, like nobody lived there.
right.
And if it was being filmed in 2020, that would that suddenly makes so much more sense to me.
Yeah,
See,
late 2020, early 21.
I guess my main takeaway is that the Colonel had COVID, not heart issues.
Yeah,
Yes. I'm the most media literate person in this podcast.
right.
Liev Schreiber was patient zero.
I did notice that Liev Schreiber is credited as a producer on the film, so part of me thinks that maybe he had more passion for the work and the project, which I think you'd have to be really passionate in order to do justice, or in order to put in a good performance for what is essentially a sort of a dry role. And I think you can tell that in his performance. Like, I don't have any particular issue with his performance. I think he did very well, but I think that extra passion and motivation is something that was clear from his portrayal.
I think, you talk about it being like a dry role. I think, going into this film with the understanding and the premise that this is post-war Italy, we're only a year or two removed from the end of World War II. That's an area that's not really explored in film a lot.
Yeah,
Usually when it comes to film, it's like World War II, and then we immediately jump into like Cold War.
yeah,
So like rebuilding of Europe has never really gotten screen time, or it has not gotten the screen time it probably should. And I think there's a lot of great stories to be had there. That being said, even going in with the expectation and the knowledge, like, okay, this is not active war, like it's not this is like, I definitely still classify this as a war film. It's just it's not going to be your like shoot 'em up action. It's not going to be a thriller or anything like that.
right.
I don't even know if this would classify as drama. I genuinely have a hard time placing what kind of genre of film this would be, but I mean it's definitely suspenseful.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think, even though, like I said, I do believe this is a war film, if you go into this film thinking of it as a war film, I think you're going to be disappointed, or you're going to find yourself getting bored. Like, this is a
right.
film you definitely need to go into it expecting it to be like a slow burn throughout.
There it is. Buzzword of the day: slow burn. The
And
the cinephiles classic.
I love
I was gonna see how long it took one of us to say it.
oh my god. Uh I love the fact, so like the other day Jack was talking, like, we text each other all the time whenever we're watching film, like, because we're in different states, like we'll just text each other as we're watching these films. And one day he was talking shit, he's like, I forgot what film it was, but he was like, man, this is such a Kino film, like making fun of the fact that like like movie reviewers or like movie nerds have latched on to the word Kino to describe, like,
It's become a meme.
yeah, it like it's an internet meme now that, like, oh, a good movie is keen, like you say the word Kino. And then
Can you
literally
explain
like
to me
two
what
or
that
three
means? I
days
don't think I've
later,
heard that one. before.
Good filmmaking. Like, oh,
Okay.
this film is Kino. It's German for film, or to be
Okay.
to be more accurate, cinema.
Gotcha.
But anyways,
Okay.
so he's talking shit to me about that, and maybe 2 or 3 days later, you reached out to me and are like, "Hey, do you want to review this film with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And you sent me the link, and it's for Kino dot whatever. I'm like, "Oh, this is too fucking perfect."
Pure cinema, pure Kino.
So,
Yeah.
was it Kino that gave you the screen? Like, how did? Because I had never heard of this streaming service before. I'm always happy to have an extra streaming service on deck when I'm trying to find stuff, but
Right.
I guess
Is
like
it a streaming
you met,
service? Because that was the first time. The link I sent you guys was the first time that I used that site. When they send me links, or when they send me screener links, what's the website? Let me find it. It's through some company that like I only get like 2 chances to watch it, and there was like one of the films I watched, like my power went out, and so I had to like figure out how to get another screener link because I didn't finish it. Pixel Scene, I guess pixelscene.media does the screener links for the indie films, and I don't think that that's a service or anything. I think that's just the company that runs them.
right? No, that seems like an industry thing, but
Right.
I guess after you did the screener, did they like tell you like, "Hey, here's the premiere information"?
Yeah, basically.
Okay,
Yeah, so the this one was a little difficult because they wanted me to promote the premiere specifically. And so it was like my initial TikTok review was very, very brief because I didn't have like a ton to say about the film. And that's honestly why I wanted to do this podcast, was because I felt like I could articulate more by talking to you guys, since you know a bit more about the context and the genre. But yeah, I guess I didn't realize until I was doing the research that by the time they sent this to me, it had already premiered in theaters in Canada. So I think that they were just trying to promote that premiere specifically. And there was a Q&A with some of the cast, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to do that event to sort of promote it to the States. Maybe, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be on streaming in the near future.
Oh, I'm sure Amazon will purchase it
Yeah.
any day now because they buy everything. Where was it? But anyways, back to Slow Burn.
Right. Yep.
You you mentioned like Liev Schreiber being a producer on this, and it seemed like you'd have to be heavily invested to give a performance. Like I'm glad he was vested in this, if that was the case, because I did think that Liev Schreiber's performance in this was spectacular. Like I think he does the like grizzled colonel act very well.
Yeah. Well, and he and what was her name? Matilda De Angelis, who was the woman whose name was obviously so important. One of the things that they excel at, that I think you kind of have to have an eye for to notice, is the subtleties in their acting. Because while it is a dialogue heavy film, you can tell a lot based off of their body language and just various ways that they kind of communicate the subtext, that with a script like this, you'd have to have 2 very well-tuned actors with that caliber. And so, like, on the surface, it
They
might come
definitely
off
play
as
off each other very well.
yeah, right. On the surface, it might not seem super interesting, but like if you notice the subtleties and you're like paying attention, there's a lot to respect about it.
This definitely is an artsy film.
Right.
Going back to my statement, like if you expect this to be like your typical war film, I think you'll be disappointed. I think if you were to go into watching this film with the expectation of like if you're the kind of person who loves like an A24 drama,
Right.
like this movie is right up your alley.
Yeah.
You should put yourself in that mindset of like, I'm watching an A24 film.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like this isn't like
and granted, this
a
is not an
huge
A24 film,
blockbuster.
but it's
Yeah.
very on brand for them.
Yeah. I think it was Tribune Pictures did this one. All of the screeners that sent me have been from different production companies, but yeah, so it very much reads that way of more of a an artsy film that you like. It doesn't have a broad appeal, I guess is the best way to put it. You'd have to sort of have your expectations set and know what to appreciate. Like if I sat and watched this alone and I wasn't like super paying attention to it, like I would have gotten nothing out of it. But because it was something that I was intentionally needed to watch to write a review for it, and because I was watching it with my wife, there was like a lot more that I guess it's deeper than its surface level tone, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, this is not a film you can scroll your phone through.
Right.
You will be completely lost.
Yeah.
Or you might not be, because like you could be scrolling your phone and be like, damn, are they still on their fucking date? Like,
yeah, you notice he's talking about duck hunting, and then next thing you know, he's actually duck hunting, and that's it. That's the end.
He finally is going duck hunting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Huh, he missed.
So what was the thing that you disliked about this film the most?
I guess we literally started out this by ranting about the ending. That was, I don't want to say that there's, or I hesitate to say that there's poetry in a suicide scene, but like I sort of get where it was going at, but that doesn't mean that I had to like it. But I think we've kind of covered some things that you could have an issue with, like the age gap between the characters, which you've already addressed was not really that taboo for its time.
Place. Well, and place. It is Italy.
And play, yeah. So I guess I've kind of already said my gripes about it. Like I wish there was maybe a bit more visuals when he's talking about the past, and that might have been affected by COVID. But like, there's nothing that I like outright hate about the film. I just didn't like overly love it either.
Jack, what was your major heartburn in this film?
Heartburn. My biggest heartburn. I've already aired my grievances about it, but the ending, like they completely changed it, and I guess they wanted more tears jerked at the end, but it just came across as a circle jerk rather than a tear jerk.
I'm going to be a pedant with my least favorite part of this film, and I love Liev Schreiber and I love his acting, but his stupid fucking beard. Like, and don't get me wrong, it's not a stupid beard. It looks very good on him. He's a very attractive male. Like, I'm not gay, but I do things with him.
I'm not gay. However, I would engage in a loving, consensual sexual act with him. But I'm not gay.
That was a joke I made to my wife earlier. I was like, man, if I ever had a gay hall pass, it'd probably be Liev Schreiber, him or Liam Neeson. But
¿Por qué no los dos?
I have daddy issues. But
so what about the beard is the issue?
So my heartburn with the beard. Back, ringing us back in.
I'm just trying to steer us right back.
My problem with the beard is, like, it's not uncommon in World War II films for us to see individuals with scruff or with facial hair, but those are instances or individuals who, like, they have been in combat for like weeks or months, and like their ability to engage in proper hygiene is severely limited, or the standards of the military aren't as closely adhered to like in a combat setting. This is post-war, and he is an officer, and he's walking around with a beard. Like the military has not. The military only just started allowing beards like 5 years ago. Like, so like 1947, colonel in the army is not going to have facial hair. Like, it's just not going to be a thing. Like I said, it is a pedantic thing.
Yeah.
It has no bearing on this telling of this story, but it just irked the shit out of me.
Okay, but counterpoint, Liev Schreiber. Are you really gonna tell a high-ranking official played by Liev Schreiber, who has a heart condition, that he can't have the beard? Like, I think he's this is a guy that just reached his fuck at 50s. So if he wants a beard, he'll grow a beard. What are you gonna do? Fire me?
Well, and that's the thing, is it is post-war, and I guess I almost said, well, I thought he was like retired, but no, I guess he was talking with other people and about his position. So like I kind of saw it as he hasn't shaved since the war. But you're right, he still had his position.
I mean, he's wearing his dress uniform throughout this entire film.
Yeah, and like Josh Hutcherson's character, I think more at least looked the part in terms of that specific hygiene thing. My issue was the fact that all of the marketing emphasized the fact that Josh Hutcherson was in it when he's in like 2 scenes.
And he's not even the best actor in this film.
No, he's third billing for a reason.
I'm not a Josh Hutcherson fan by any stretch of the imagination. His portrayal of Peeta in the Hunger Games kind of did it for me. Just did not work, I don't think.
I mean, his casting was one of the more accurate castings in that, if you ask me, because Katniss is supposed to be a scrawny, olive-skinned, black-haired girl instead of well-fed Jennifer Lawrence.
Hey, you shut up.
I don't have any skin in that game, so
you don't have any skin in the Hunger Games game.
I've seen the movies. That is it, and I didn't. The only reason I even watched past the first one is because my wife made me. So, like, I don't particularly care. But
I think it says a lot that both me and Jack had because we read the books prior to all the movies coming out.
I didn't.
Right.
I read the books in college, remember?
Yes, you read the books before all of the movies came out.
Oh, that's what you're saying. I thought you meant like before the movies, period.
No, like...
Anyway.
All of them...
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're tracking. But I remember we read the final book, like we both read it like separately but together over Christmas break. And I remember him texting me. He's like, "What did you think about the ending?" And I was like, I threw my book across the fucking room.
I did too. I still have a divot in my book for where it hit the wall.
Stupid fucking... Ooh, we fought an entire war to end the Hunger Games. Let's start a new Hunger Games.
Let's make it more people's fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because we didn't learn anything from this.
That was honestly the only time in the entire series where I felt like, oh, there's themed.
Yeah.
Like
it's more than just
I was just
like a teenage...
I'm like, is there a point to this? But like it finally like all clicked into place. I was like, okay, I kind of see what they're saying. But
there's almost a point being made.
Yeah.
Kind of like this film. There is a point being made. You just gotta wait a minute.
Yeah.
What was your favorite aspect of this film?
For me, it was the cinematography and the settings and the locations. If this was like any other country, really, I probably would have been less invested in it. And honestly, I might have been less invested in it this time last year before I'd actually been to Italy. So I think there's not much to say about like the direction of the film, but I think the cinematography is something that was done extremely well. And if you get nothing out of this film, it's very, very pretty. So
it definitely does have some phenomenal cinematography. I was a big fan of a lot of the shots they did. They're very deep. Like they had a lot of depth to them. Like
yeah.
And I feel like that's not something that's explored a ton in war films, because I think in war films it's very focused on, close up. It's either like close up with the human experience, or it's a very like almost map level view of, like, if we're going big picture for a war film, it's like kind of overhead aerial type deal, versus like you have scenes in here where like, Liev Schreiber is walking down an alleyway and you can feel how deep this alleyway is. Like it feels like it's a 200-foot deep alleyway. Like that's not something that's lost on you in this film.
Yeah.
So that I give this film props because it does have some phenomenal cinematography.
Yeah. And all of us watched it at home, not on a big screen, but we could still feel the setting and the depth of that cinematography.
I watched this on my phone. Like
right, exactly. Yeah.
So like the fact that I can appreciate something like that on my, regular iPhone screen size, I think says a lot. Like, I couldn't imagine how great this would have looked in a theater.
Looks
Right.
great on a computer screen. Also, I forgot to mention, I went all out for this. Like, I was hyped for this premiere. I drove down to the theater just to buy snacks and popcorn, and I ordered the extra large, and they literally filled a clear trash bag with popcorn and gave it to me, and I'm still working on it to this day.
I think you gotta give up on it.
No.
I don't think you can keep eating week-old popcorn.
Fuck you. Call the cops.
I didn't even know that was a thing. You can buy a trash bag of popcorn?
Well, yeah, it was like this clear wastebasket thing full of popcorn. And the best part is they said I could come back and get a refill.
Oh my god. No refills on Cherry Coke, though.
Yeah, that was the line, I guess. And I also bought some candy. Sour octopuses and those sweet tart candies. Oh, muy bien. I also had some Bellagio wine.
So I took a slightly different approach. Like, I paused this movie halfway through, and like I heated up myself some like apple cider because it's
tis this. I can't believe I haven't done that yet.
It tis the season, but also I feel like this is actually a good fall film. Like the color palettes in this film very much go with the fall feeling.
We can tell it's cold.
Yeah.
And it's a very, I don't want to say lazy, cozy movie.
Yes, there's a cozy aesthetic to this film. So like I could definitely see this being like, it goes well with like an October or November watching time frame.
Yeah.
So that was my watching experience, was iPhone and a mug of apple cider.
And yet you still enjoyed it and still could appreciate a lot of the visuals of it. So that just goes to show.
I think it would have been funny if I made myself some pineapple pizza, some authentic Italian food for this.
Yeah.
Pineapple belongs on pizza, and I will fight, kill, and die on this hill, and not necessarily in that order.
The hill that I will die on, and this is coming from someone who is an American with Italian heritage, is that Italians may have invented the pizza, but Americans perfected it. I don't think I had any pizza out of Italy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any pizza I had in Italy that I thought, this is the best pizza I've ever had. Like, there was something that was interesting, and the food in Europe in general is fresher. But like, if you have like a really good, well-loaded, wood-fired pizza in America, I think that's better than anything I've had in Italy. Maybe it was just where I happen to be. But yeah, I don't know how my Italian grandparents feel about this opinion, but they're dead, so it's fine.
If Italy was so great, would they have emigrated? Checkmate.
Exactly. Right.
I love the fact that, Jack, you said you die on the hill of, pineapple belongs on pizza.
I'd fight, kill, and die on that hill, and not necessarily in that order.
Very well.
Whatever.
I came across this one TikToker that his whole thing is he takes that concept a step further. And so he has like one of those like outdoor propane fueled like pizza oven things. And each one of his little TikTok videos is him making a pizza, but he puts some sort of like abomination of a topping on it. Like he made like a kiwi topped pizza, or like there's one where it's like, today I'm making a sauerkraut and Hershey Kisses pizza. Like, just
I might have been able to get behind the kiwi, but the rest...
Honestly, the kiwi's what did it for me.
So I love that. Like, he took this concept as like, because, everybody argues over like pineapple and like whatever. Like, you do you put whatever you want on your pizza. Like, live your life. But I love that this dude took it a step further. He's like, no, I am going to make everybody angry with what I put on pizzas.
So, what are y'all drinking tonight?
I've got filtered water brought to you by Brita.
Solid choice. I want to say good work and congrats on your weight loss journey.
Oh, thank you. It's slow, but it's getting there.
You know what? Like every little step counts, right?
Exactly.
I've also I dubbed it Operation Get Less Fat, and I started that a couple of months ago. So I feel the struggle. Jack, what are you drinking this evening?
Oktoberfest.
From Sam
the season.
Adams.
Yes. So I bought some Oktoberfest from Spaten early, like on Friday, and they don't really make their 6-pack carriers well. So I had some hands full of groceries when I got in, and I was almost to my room with some of the stuff, but I grabbed the beer wrong. It fell, and then I had a 3-pack. So then I had to clean up.
It's a shame.
I know, it was fucking annoying. Now there's like a towel over where I dropped most of it because I got 90% of the broken glass, but
I think you should just leave the broken glass.
no, I really shouldn't.
Like choose your own adventure, but you're like home edition.
I've already found a stray piece in the bathroom with my foot.
Oof.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
Oh, it didn't break the skin. It just gave me a light poke, and my foot did the picking up for me.
That's fair. I am. I like to call it my school night special because I have to work tomorrow. So I'm just having Sprite Zero today.
Very good.
It's delightfully refreshing.
But I think it's time we put a rating on this.
I do. I honestly kind of felt a little conflicted about what the rating system should be for this because there's not anything in particular that like really
Bambinis.
I was going to say heart pills.
Heart pills. I like heart pills. My only other suggestion was going to be I don't know what you call it, but that like cigarette dispenser they had on top of the bar. That's like all nifty and shit.
Yeah, it like blooms out when you lift it up.
But I don't know what it's called, so I think heart pills is good.
Bambinis.
Shut up.
I didn't find heart
it
pills.
Would be Bambini, technically. Bambino is the singular, Bambini is the plural.
And
Sorry,
tomato.
My Italian over here, yeah.
Well, Babadabici to you. But yeah, the Bambini line is in the book as well, where the poorer you are, the more Bambinis you have. Anyway,
great observation, Jack. Moving
on. So what do you give this, Johnny?
Ooh, it's honestly difficult for me. I didn't like this film, but I didn't dislike it either. It's just not something I really got all that invested in. I think this is a film. I think if they had explored the like him hunting his son's grave aspect more, or like add a little more more kind of side adventure, it seemed very centric to this film seemed very centric to like him and the Contessa flirting, and then in like the last 20 minutes like, oh, we found your son's grave.
Yeah,
I wish there was more to that side of the story. That being said, Liev Schreiber did a phenomenal job acting in this.
mm-hmm.
I thought there was good dialogue, and it is a beautifully shot film. So even though I didn't particularly care for this film, I think just from the technical aspects, this is a 4 heart pill film.
Yeah,
I
felt similar. Or you can go ahead, Jack.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I give this movie 4.2. I'm gonna have to dock it points for changing the ending, and also B, not enough fucking.
Okay,
that's fair enough. Yeah, I felt similar to John in that I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. But there's a lot to appreciate from a technical perspective. So, like, ordinarily, I probably would have given it a 3 heart pill, but I am going to give it a 3.5. if nothing else for the cinematography and the acting.
Well, Jack, what does Rotten Tomatoes give this?
I'm glad you asked. There is no popcorn meter, so because I guess this hasn't
Right.
been released yet, or it doesn't have enough.
Is there
Whatever.
an IMDb score or anything?
No, maybe, but I'm
Let
looking.
me
The
check
tomometer
Letterboxd.
is 88% for the critics. Okay, let's see IMDb now. 6.7.
Okay,
I think Rotten Tomatoes is.
yeah.
On
89% from Rotten
Letterboxd,
Tomatoes seems a bit high, but I'm not going to dunk on that score. I can see why this film would get that.
Yeah, on Letterboxd it's a 3.4 stars.
Letterboxd has it at 3.4.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like, because we have 3 different reviews, like it seems like a film that nobody can really agree on. I think it's you dig it or you don't. Like,
Yeah, well, and I think it's because all of us have different perspectives. Jack's read the novel. I have an appreciation and more knowledge of that region and that culture, and John watched it on his phone. So, like, we all had a different experience.
I watched it on my phone and read a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, exactly. It's not much more limited, but anyway.
You're right. I think this is meant for a very specific audience,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if any one of us would fit that demographic.
Exactly. Yeah.
This seems like a film that, like, your English 101 professor would make you watch for extra credit.
Yeah. So a big selling point when they were sending me the screener was that it was a film adaptation of Ernest Hemingway's last novel, and it was the first time it's been adapted to screen and all that. And the thing I have to point out to people is that there aren't very many writers in history that like have a 100% track record. So like when I lived in St. Louis, the St. Louis Shakespeare Company they were trying to produce every Shakespeare play, right? And so I saw one of theirs, and it was this obscure Shakespeare play I'd never heard of, and it was like the most boring dialogue, like no interesting characters. So I was like, yeah, Shakespeare did some really great things, but like maybe there's a reason that we don't produce every single one of his plays, because not all of them are great. And so like Hemingway has written some fantastic novels, but like maybe there was a reason that this one in particular was never adapted to the film, because it maybe doesn't adapt as well as some of his other stories. That's kind of my mindset.
That's fair. So I gotta know, though, which is your favorite Shakespeare story?
Oh, I'm not a fan of Shakespeare in general, but probably Twelfth Night.
Okay.
I despise Romeo and Juliet. It's like in my top 5 most hated stories in all of literature, and I was forced to be in it in college as Tybalt because I had to for my scholarship. But
Dance for me, monkey, dance!
that was pretty much what it was. Yeah. But that one was set in 1960s Italy. Our version was, so that was fun. We had a knife fight and everything. But no, I think Twelfth Night is the one that I've enjoyed. I don't think I've ever seen that one live. I think I've only read it. No, I saw it live. There's a Shakespeare Theater in Virginia that I saw it at.
Jack, what's your favorite Shakespeare play?
Couldn't tell you. Next year, the community theater in my town is doing Hamlet, and I got really hyped for that. But the week before it premieres, I'm going to be in Cairo. So, Egypt trip or a community theater's play?
Hamlet, yeah.
Of
But
Hamlet.
You could be
Right.
Hamlet.
Yeah, and I could also be going to Egypt, which I'd really prefer.
Right.
The Shakespeare discussion is a major point of contention between me and my wife, because my favorite Shakespeare play is Julius Caesar.
Oh.
She has the same reaction. And like anytime I mention, like, all I have to do is mention the fact that not even that is my favorite, that I just like Julius Caesar, she'll be like, "It is a garbage play. Like, like Romeo and Juliet is so much better." Like, I'm like, I like swords.
Yeah.
But swords.
The only Shakespeare play that I like straight up didn't like to some extent was The Merry Wives of Windsor. I saw that one, and it's basically just a horny dude chasing young women for 2.5 hours. And then whatever the one that I saw in St. Louis that was clearly so memorable that I remember the name of it. So, but I don't
That's
think
fair.
Romeo and Juliet is a bad play. I just think that the way that it has been interpreted for the past half a millennium has sort of ruined it. And because if most people realized that it was supposed to be this satire on teenage horniness, then people would enjoy it more instead of it being so romanticized over a story that is
Like the
very blatantly
star-crossed
not
lovers
romantic.
take.
Yeah.
I just like yelling the Ides of March at my wife. Beware. Anyways,
Anyways,
Ben, thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to tell the folks about anything you have coming up or any fun posters you're currently working on or social media accounts, the floor is yours.
yeah. So I'm How View Ben, Ben, on TikTok and Instagram and Letterboxd, and currently my poster I'm working on is for 50 Weird Al songs, the lyrics to 50 songs, because last year I did a Taylor Swift poster, so I figured I would do Weird Al this year. But then I'm going to start doing fan conventions starting next year. So I'm going to be in MegaCon in Orlando in February. That'll be the first of several of the conventions that I do next year. So that's where I can be
Nice.
found, I guess.
Now the real question then is, what's your favorite Weird Al song?
Your horoscope for today, or It's All About the Pentiums? I'm actually go
Amish
ahead, Joe.
Paradise or Weasel Stomping Day.
Both of those are on my poster.
Put your Viking helmets on. Spread that mayonnaise on the lawn.
Okay, truth be told, the reason I'm actually doing Weird Al is because I'm attending a convention in Columbus in December, and Weird Al is going to be one of the guests there, and so I want to get his autograph, but like I don't have anything for him to autograph, so I figured I would make this poster. And since I made one for Taylor Swift for the Eras Tour last year, I'm like, oh, I could do the same style that I did Eras Tour, but for Weird Al, because I'd be parodying my Taylor Swift poster.
Right.
But narrowing down his 45-year career into 50 songs was more difficult than I expected.
He's definitely done a lot. My personal favorite is Skipper Dan.
Yes, that's one of my favorite of his originals.
I'm stoked because I live in Colorado. You know, he announced he's doing a tour and he's going to be playing Red Rocks when he comes here.
Yeah.
And Red Rocks is, I don't know if you've ever seen it or are familiar with it, but
it's
it's
an
like,
amphitheater, right?
yeah, it's literally in the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful, beautiful venue. So I'm excited to see him perform there.
Have you got your tickets yet? Because a lot of the shows have sold out already.
No, I haven't. I imagine I'd probably just pay an arm and a leg whenever that time comes.
Yeah.
For the resale.
Yeah. I'll be seeing him in St. Louis in September, but I've seen him live several times already, but actually getting to meet him and get his autograph, I'm looking more forward to.
Well, Jack, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. I've said my piece.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Well, if you've enjoyed this show, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on all the social medias under Armchair Commanders. If you've enjoyed listening to Ben, go give him a follow on his pages. Until next time, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
And we will catch you all later.
Great.
Bye.